Hello, Reporter Room investigators. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and we're here to talk about the Mica Miller case. This case is something that is near to dear and dear to my heart, and I want to talk about this case in terms of you guys, but also in terms of Micah too. Um, if if you don't know who I am, I'm an investigative journalist. My job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects and share with you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm going to run Sebastian's information there, but please. So come on in, come on in. We're going to talk about Mica Miller. This case means a lot to a lot of you guys. She's absolutely um, precious, and what happened to her is horrible, absolutely horrible. Um, so just to give you just a really quick overview on what happened to Micah, I'm going to watch my words very carefully. Um, Micah disappeared, um, but she was found, and she was no longer with us. And law enforcement says that she did this. Um, she apparently, according to the Robeson County Sheriff's Office, made a 911 call on April 27th around 3 p.m. Saying that she just didn't want to be here anymore. Watching my words, wanted her family to be able to find her, and then supposedly hung up. And then they went to the Lumbar River State Park in Orem, North Carolina, and found her. Okay, so and so they are saying that, but there is a lot more to the story than just that, which is why we need to talk about this case together. So I want to talk about what really happened to her. She was beautiful. She was vivacious. She was inspiring. She was precious. And she was married to a man, a pastor named J.P. Miller. And you can see him here on the image that I'm showing you. You can see him in the background with the beigeish shirt and the black pants, kind of behind Micah there. And that's Micah on the left. So everything we've learned so far about Micah, and I just feel like Micah was pushed to her breaking point, and I just want to say to you guys, that Micah, and to everyone that's gone through something like this, that you are worthy. Please know that. And everything we've learned so far about Micah and her relationship with her pastor husband JP points to a life filled with fear, isolation, manipulation, coercion, extortion, and DV, cycled around and around with some positive interactions, and then being gaslit into believing that if she left JP, because remember, he's a pastor, that she would be letting God down. Micah deserved so much better than JP, and she finally was getting away from him when all this happened. So maybe this has happened to you. Maybe you've been through something like this, or maybe you know someone who's been through something like this. I just think it's really important that we get this message out. I feel like Micah, her case is not that unusual. And the fact that she went to law enforcement over and over and over again, and they did not advocate for her, is really concerning. So I just want you guys to know that if something like this has ever happened to you, and this can happen to men too, not just women, just know that you are worthy. And if you have stayed in a relationship too long because you believe this is what God wanted from you, or you were trying to uphold the covenant of your marriage, just know that God values your safety. And what happened to Micah and who is responsible for this, in my opinion, lands on J.P. Miller and law enforcement, who failed to take action and should have protected Micah. And instead, it seems like they protected J.P. Miller. And we saw this in the Gabby Petito case, right? Where there was a 911 call that the 911 caller saw Bryan Laundrie, slapping, and instead she got told that she was lucky she wasn't going to jail by law enforcement, that because she was the one, I mean, just completely gaslit in that. scenario, in my opinion. So I think JP Miller, who, is a pastor, he she apparently he was a youth minister when she was a child, and when he was an adult. He was way older than her. He was in his 40s. He had 5 kids with his first wife. We're going to talk about her too, because she's come out. Ooh, she has some stuff to say. But he taught a distorted and, in my opinion, vile teachings in the definition of a faithful wife. And I don't know if the congregation just wasn't aware of JP Miller. It seems like now that they've learned who he is, it feels like the congregation has diminished a lot. But in my opinion, JP Miller targeted Micah as a 14-year-old. She was the babysitter for him and his former wife of their 5 children. So I think this is all very sketchy. So despite the report after report after report, detailing the fact that JP was harassing her, was stalking her, was bothering her, the fact that he had slashed her tires, not once, but twice, the fact that he put her in a mental institution against her will, and used that time to steal her car and go through her personal Facebook and her emails while she was in there. The fact that he installed tracking devices on her car in an effort to follow her. And she reported this to law enforcement, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 times. 5 times. And they did nothing to protect Mica Miller. So we've all watched JP Miller describe how awesome Micah thought he was, right? We heard his complete and utter narcissistic personality. In my opinion, I'm using this as an adjective. I'm not diagnosing him. I'm not a mental health professional. But the fact that he had no empathy and no sympathy for what happened to Micah says everything about that he was just interested in preserving and enhancing his own reputation. He pretended to grieve even though he's gallivanting around town with his mistress. So I bet a lot of you guys have had a JP Miller type in your life, maybe not to this extent, and this can happen to men too. But just remember, you guys are all worthy of being safe. So despite sworn testimony from Micah, her sister Sierra says that despite statements from their friends, they just aren't buying. Her family just does not buy that she suddenly just decided 2 days after she serves JP Miller with paperwork asking for spousal support, spousal maintenance, that suddenly she decided to do away with herself. They feel like there could be some AI involved. They feel like maybe she was pushed into this. So I just want to share some information that's come out from Fitz News in relation to, I just want to make sure what I'm looking at is what you guys are saying, in relation to JP Miller and his first wife. So I'm going to watch my words here while we go through this, but JP Miller was married. Remember, he's way older than Micah. He's in his 40s. Micah was in her 20s, just turned 30. I think she just turned 30, but in her 20s during most of this time. And remember, she used to babysit for JP Miller. So his former wife, his first wife, her name is Allison Williams, citing exigent circumstances and the possibility of imminent danger and harm to the couple's 2 minor children. They have 5 children, but 2 are still minors. So she was married to JP for 16 years prior to their divorce back in 2015, and asked a family court judge this week to grant her sole and permanent custody of the couple's 2 minor children. She's also asked JP Miller and his scandal-ridden father, who's also a pastor, that's like a whole nother live stream, you guys, to be prohibited from having any contact whatsoever with her children. So John Paul has exhibited increasingly unstable behaviors. This is according to Allison Williams, alleging in her complaint. She says, quote, his mental health has increasingly deteriorated, and he has demonstrated behavior patterns that are erratic and irrational. She says that JP Miller has exposed the couple's minor children to immoral and unsafe environment. So this is from Allison Williams. She submitted this, It was filed on May 28th. And today's June 4th. So within the last few days in family court in Horry County, South Carolina, she included graphic and disturbing new allegations against J.P. Miller, who has come under a cloud of contempt and suspicion after what happened to Micah. So this is Allison. So this is Fitz News is my source on this. So just a quick recap. So what happened to Micah? She was found on April 27th at 4:23 Eastern Time in the Lumbar River State. It's a 14,000 acre wilderness. She passed just less than 2 weeks after filing for divorce and less than 48 hours after serving him with papers. So why would she serve him with papers and then go and do this? There's some pieces missing from this story, in my opinion. I just don't think we have everything, and her family doesn't either. So Micah's family is insisting that she was placed where she was found and that this was all staged. Her father, Michael Francis, says, "I believe this was all staged." He told News Nation last week, "I believe the whole thing was premeditated." So, wow, you guys. They also have posted messages to social media in which J.P. Miller appears to have threatened Micah in the weeks and months leading up to what happened to her. I'm watching my words. Additionally, Micah's family has filed paperwork in South Carolina's family court system seeking to take control of Micah's estate and obtain custody of her personal effects. And we've all seen that necklace that JP was wearing, right? And we all thought that belonged to Micah. And it does belong to Micah. So how did he get Micah's necklace? He says a nurse gave it to him, but how? Micah wasn't in the hospital. We have video of her wearing that necklace. So how would a nurse have given that necklace to J.P. Miller? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Micah didn't go to the hospital. So why would the nurse have the necklace, and why would she be giving it just to JP? I don't know, you guys. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't pass the smell test. So Micah was married to JP's best friend named Jeremy Diaz. And according to the affidavit, this is Allison Williams' affidavit, JP told Allison that in addition to his affair with Micah, he had employed, I'm not going to use this word, workers, and had been inappropriate with several underage family members of their church, and blamed these immoral behaviors on things that he says that he went through at the hands of his father, Reginald Reg Wayne Miller. So despite the church recommending JP enroll in extensive counseling for certain kind of predications, JP failed to seek treatment for his behaviors. This is according to the complaint. Nonetheless, he was allowed to continue serving as Solid Rock's pastor. They've said they've removed him, but he's still serving as the pastor of Solid Rock. I think it's because he owns the church. So I think it would be really hard for them to get rid of him if he is the, owner. So this is the allegation. You can read it here. Fitz News has it. And according to JP's wife, she learned the identities of these female members of the church. And some of the stuff it's like, you're going to have to read it for yourself because it's just absolutely beyond the pale. Let me just share this one instead. Let me check in with chat too. This is social media. I don't even think I've said hello. Sorry about that, you guys. But this case just really, really bothers me. Thank you so much, Njaz, for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to put that toward the computer fund. I have about $250 saved up for that, so I'm going to keep saving for that. And welcome to Cage Dawn the Inside as our new channel member, and Servant of God as our new channel member. Welcome. So Donna's here, Come on in, you guys. Tell me where you're from. This is our head mod. This is NJAZ. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. Leslie's from Oregon. Karen's here. Mary Jory is here. Mary Jory, did you just become a channel member? Or did I miss it before? Arlene is here. Well, welcome. Susan's here. Patricia's yeah, we know what happened. Yeah, we do. We're going to dig into some more stuff though, guys, because I want to talk about this in terms of you guys. Greetings, the Jewel. Welcome. Hi, Kami. Kami says, this case makes me so sad and hope he gets held as culpable. Well, the FBI is investigating it now, and I don't know if they can get him for what he did to Micah, but I do think they're going to get him on financial charges. So I do think we're going to have justice. Karen says, justice for Micah. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Welcome, Donna. Patricia said she never disappeared. I'm watching my words, Patricia. I'm just being careful what I say. Okay. I do know that. I do have a true crime group on Reporter Room. If you type in Reporter Room on Facebook, it should pop up. I also have a Mica Miller group there also. If you type in Justice for Micah, it should pop up. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Help me out with the algorithm. They doesn't tend to favor videos like this, but I still want to talk about it. So I'm just thinking that I've just seen the outpouring. We have had protests that have been going on every Sunday. And protesters are saying they're going to keep protesting. And, maybe some of you guys have gone through this, men and women out there. Maybe you tried to tell someone that you were being hurt or harmed. Maybe you didn't feel safe. Maybe you were afraid, because we know the most dangerous time is when you're trying to leave. And I just want to tell you, you're allowed to ask for help. You deserve help. And Micah deserved help from law enforcement too, and she did not get it. But just remember that you are worthy. I bet a lot of you have installed extra lighting and security cameras to protect yourself. You've gone and gotten court orders of protection to protect yourself. You've checked and made sure every door and window are locked before you go to sleep. So I think for a lot of us, Micah's story hit home, because but for the grace of God, it could have been you. JP and the law enforcement agents who failed to protect Micah can say whatever they want at this point, but we know the truth. And the truth was that whether Micah did what she did or didn't, and the family's right about this, and this was just all a setup. The truth is that she was pushed to her breaking point, and she was failed by law enforcement, by the church, and ultimately betrayed by JP Miller and his enablers. WBTW obtained documents that show Micah told police that she was being followed and harassed, and they did nothing. They stood by and they did nothing. Micah deserved to be protected. According to South Carolina state law, for someone to be convicted of stalking, victims must be able to show a pattern of 2 or more acts within a 90-day period. And here we have Micah making not 1, not 2, but 5 police related to harassment and stalking during that crucial 90-day period. And yet law enforcement never arrested JP Miller. They did what law enforcement has done over and over and over. They stood by and refused to protect Micah. So we need to demand better for our law enforcement officials. Remember that sheriffs come up for election and re-election. So this should be something that they're advocating for. Maybe we need to provide more education to law enforcement agencies across the country, because we saw this same thing play out in the body cam footage with Gabby Petito. We know police reports show that Micah had called the police about her tires being slashed. She called the police about tracking devices. And she called the police about getting calls from unknown numbers. She called the police about someone following her. They did nothing. Police said on March 11th, Micah went to the courthouse and tried to get a restraining order while they were with her. And she pointed out the suspect driving by. It was JP Miller. And again, no charges were filed against him. Every time law enforcement lets men, women, or little ones down in DV circumstances, in my opinion, the family does need to consider filing a lawsuit, because there needs to be some kind of a penalty. Somebody needs to be held accountable, because until there is accountability, nothing will change. And we'll have another Gabby Petito, and we'll have another Mica Miller. And the fact that South Carolina law classifies stalking as engaging in a pattern of words or conduct intended to cause a targeted person to be in fear for their life, a fear of assault or fear of something related, tells me that she should have received protections. So I want to talk about narcissism, because a lot of people who like true crime and watch true crime, not all, but a lot, are actually working through their own trauma. And it's safer to watch other people's trauma from behind a TV screen than to actually relive trauma. So I want to talk about love bombing, because it's not unusual for a narcissistic partner, friend, or family member to shower you with compliments and affections in the initial stages. And I think this probably is, I do feel like Micah was, the fact that she was a youth under him and he was her youth pastor, is really a concern. The fact she was babysitting for him, is really a concern. But it is a cycle, and the love bombing is the first stage of that. And then we have the gaslighting. And it's not unusual for the narcissist to deny their hurt, to deny your hurtful feelings, to deny the fact that they're hurting your feelings, to deny their controlling behaviors toward you and pretend that they don't remember the events being described, or accuse you of lying or not understanding the way things really happen. And of course, because this way they never have to be held accountable for their behaviors. And so the victim and all of this, and all of us want to believe as the victim that somehow we can be responsible for what happened to us, right? Because if we're responsible as the victim, then we can control it and keep it from happening again. But of course, that's not true. It's not true. So boundaries, really clear boundaries, need to be set, and they just need to be adhered to. And so this emotional manipulation tactic, it's called narcissistic gaslighting. It's designed to make you doubt yourself. So did Micah doubt herself? And I think she was finally pulling away from JP. I feel like she was finally stepping out, into her own light as a young woman. But narcissists also ignore boundaries. They don't like your boundaries, right? They're not going to like your boundaries, but you still have to set them. And some people, JP Miller was an extreme case. He put tracking devices on Micah's car. He imprisoned her in a mental institution involuntarily so he could go into her apartment, go through her things, read her social media, read her mail, steal her car. This is all despite the fact that they were separated at the time, and law enforcement did nothing to help or protect Micah. So I feel like Micah was trying to set boundaries. The other thing I see a lot with JP is just the DARVO, right? DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So by shifting the blame onto the victim, the narcissistic perpetrators could deny the guilt and damaged credibility. And this is why it's so important of who you share your information with, even on in any kind of thing. Don't think about who you're sharing your emails with, your email information. Think about who you're sharing your personal information with. Set boundaries for yourself, because you deserve to be safe and you deserve to be happy. Nitpicking. Let's talk about nitpicking. So some criticism is normal in a healthy relationship, but a narcissist will make you feel like everything that you're doing is wrong. If you're in a narcissistic relationship, your appearance, your behavior, even the sound of your voice could be criticized. Now, this could happen from your boss. This could happen from your parents. This could happen from your partner. This could be, and it can happen to men and women. But you can always spot a narcissistic nitpicker. I spotted one the other day in my comment section. I'm not going to call it out, but I just noted it and moved on. but you can spot the nitpickers. So when you encounter someone who's nitpicking you, remember it says everything about them and it says absolutely nothing about you. Shifting responsibility and blame. Narcissistic perpetrators often deflect the responsibility for their actions by blaming the victim, blaming you. They may accuse you of being the cause of their awful behavior or try to claim that you're overreacting. Now, I believe J.P. Miller used the church and its teachings to twist the Bible to shift the blame onto Micah. Because this tactic not only would have absolved J.P., the perpetrator of guilt, but it also confused and undermined Micah's sense of what was real and not real, what was true and not true, and what her covenant in her marriage meant versus her covenant with God. It gave her a certain level of uncertainty. So narcissists are known for creating an environment where the victim feels perpetually uncertain and off balance. And this can involve unpredictable reactions, sudden mood changes, inconsistent treatment, and you could be left feeling anxious and unsure. But what makes them more susceptible, and I imagine that Micah would have felt this, even physically exhausted from the start of this DV cycle, right? Just round and round that Micah went through. So let's talk about the FBI for a second. Thank you so much for being with me on this case. It's just, this is beautiful, precious Micah. So the FBI is investigating. Now, they're not investigating what happened between JP and Micah as much as they're investigating financial irregularities. But the United States Attorney's Office and the FBI are now assisting in the investigation. According to the Robeson Sheriff's Office, they feel like this was self-inflicted, and deputies and state rangers did find Micah's black Honda, and she did go to the pawn shop and she did purchase this that was used. I'm watching my words. But she was being harassed and pushed to her breaking point. And that's where I think a good civil lawsuit can come into play here. She was failed by law enforcement. She was failed by law enforcement. And she deserved so much better than what she got. Robeson County Sheriff's Bernice Wilkins says, unfortunately, rumors and conspiracy theories were spreading quickly and assumptions were being made. I think there probably was some of that, but I also think that there needs to be accountability here. Accountability for what happened to her. Because I think she did try repeatedly over and over and over to get help. And she was just dismissed. The other thing that's really sketchy on this whole thing is, I told you JP is now snuggled up with his lady friend, right? Get this. Her name is Susie Skinner. And her husband also passed away suspiciously in 2021. Just 2 weeks prior to this incident, Susie's husband had confronted J.P. Miller and asked him to leave his wife and kids alone. This is what Williams wrote in her affidavit. This is Allison Williams, ex-wife of J.P. It's chilling to know that both of the spouses, both of Susie and J.P., are now gone from tragic events. To me, this has a lot of Chad Daybell, Lori Daybell vibes on it. A lot of gaslighting. So let's talk about when Micah finally did leave JP. Where was she mentally, and why does her family believe so strongly? And why does the ex-wife of JP, she's filing for the kids because there's so many red flags. So Micah was finally able to break free of JP. She sought counseling. She got guidance. This is from Allison, who was her friend, and a person who likely knew what was going on. The two of them prayed together. So this is JP's former wife. And Micah warned Allison that her children were in danger with J.P. Miller, submitting a number of exhibits along with the affidavits, such as recordings of text messages that seemed to align with the accounts that were received from Mica Miller's friends and the family in the aftermath of what happened to Micah. So let's consider the exhibits. My source on this is Fitz News. A text message from Mica Miller's mother seeking help, her mother begging Allison to call her. Quote, "I'm concerned for the safety of my daughter," she continued. "I'm begging you not to let JP know I've reached out to you. He will just further isolate Micah from us." So this is exhibits that were provided by Allison Williams. A group text message between Allison Williams, that's JP's first wife and the mother of the five children that they had together, two of which have not grown up yet. A group text message between Allison, JP, and Micah discussing the custody arrangements of their daughter, who is 13. In the text, Allison Williams informs the couple that the custody arrangement will not change due to the fact that JP Miller committed terrible crimes of essaying. And text messages sent to JP Miller from their daughter's phone to Mica Miller's new phone asking her to come home. And then on March 11th of 2024, just over a month after Micah was gone. Oh, sorry. This was not a month after. It's a month before. I'm misreading. It's a month before. I was going to say those dates don't match. Allison got a message that said, "From Micah, I need to talk to you ASAP for the safety of your kids. Please call me." So to me, that's a motive. I think that's a motive. I think there's a motive here. So Robeson County Sheriff's Office put this out on May 7th. So almost a month ago. Just talking about how it tugged at the heartstrings and just basically, you guys can read this, but basically giving us a timeline. They said at 11 a.m., Micah was observed on her Ring camera arriving at the Margarita Drive residence. At 11:38, she was observed on her Ring camera leaving the residence. At 12:12, she was observed on store surveillance walking into a pawn shop located in Myrtle Beach. She was observed at the counter purchasing what she used to allegedly do away with herself and ammo. At 1 o'clock, she was in her black Honda, observed traveling on Highway 501. At 1:27, she was observed arriving at 41 Grocery and Grill. At 1:35, Micah is observed leaving the store after purchasing gas. At 2:54, she allegedly called the Robeson County from Lumbar River and the 911 call, which I'm not going to play. You guys can it is here if you guys want to go through that, but I don't want to play it because it's just too upsetting. Let me check in with chat, and then I want to keep talking about this. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up button. It's free and it helps me out with the algorithm. Yeah, big red flags. Big red flags, you guys. Let me go to the comments here. Okay. Hey, Amelia, this is our other head mod, and Jazz is one head mod, Accessibility is the other. Did Michael leave a note stating that she told her sister. She told her sister, Sierra, that if she turned up, that it was JP. If she turned up with a bullet, exactly where it was found. I'm watching my words, that it was JP. The 911 call was her voice. There's been some talk about AI. I don't know. The cat's. Oh, okay. Arlene says, I know that Micah told her family if anything happened to her, it would be JP who did it. Yeah. So did he do it, or did he just push her to the breaking point where she did it. That's what I want to talk about. So I don't know the answer to that, but her family has hired a lawyer. And there are demonstrations weekly outside of the Solid Rock Church. And the protesters say they're going to continue to protest on behalf of Micah. I'm sorry your uncles are in the hospital. Damn, that sounds really, really upsetting. I hope they feel better. Amelia says, in my opinion, even if ultimately Micah did do what the law enforcement says, JP bullied her into doing it. I agree with that. Mary Jury says, I believe the sister said she has a diary, allegedly. Let me pull that up really quick. Okay, let's see what. I think she has text messages. Let me share this with you guys instead. I'm just waiting for it to populate. Okay, can you guys see it? Okay. So all right, so the source on this is News Nation. The family is saying that it doesn't add up. They think it's staged. And they have, good reasons to think that this was staged. And in my opinion, law enforcement has a motive to sweep this under the rug because they didn't act. So, they want it just to be done and dusted. But Sierra Francis, who's Mica Miller's sister, said she doesn't think Micah just could have floated all the way down in stagnant water. She's pointing out discrepancies between where Micah was found and where the bullet casings were discovered. She says, quote, it's not like she could have, left her belongings, walked down the water, and then come out here and then somehow left the bullets and the gun back on the shore. She said, we have video I provided that shows the water just sits there still. There's no way she would have floated 40 meters from the edge. This is her Micah's dad, Michael Francis. She was placed there. So both Michael and Sierra Francis believe Micah's was placed there. And they're pointing to contradicting evidence. In surveillance footage that News Nation obtained through the FOIA Act, the Freedom of Information Act, Micah can be seen leaving her house. I just went through all of that. But Micah's friend Angela Clark was one of the last people to speak with her. The night before Micah passed, she made plans for that Sunday to meet with Angela. She was going to meet her friend Angela at church. And Angela even offered to help Micah with her car payments. So the friends aren't buying that Micah did this either. They said this is not somebody that's ready to watching their life ETL. This is somebody that's making plans for the weekend, getting their car payment made. Yes, she made her car payment. Why would you worry about having your car payment made? For that matter, why would you pay a lawyer a $5,000 retainer and file for divorce to have somebody served, but then go do this? Remember, this guy put tracking devices on her car. He institutionalized her, even after they were separated, into a mental institution so he could steal her car and break into her house. I say break in. He thinks he's entitled to be there. She wasn't living with him. Micah told police that she had a series of harassing incidents. So it's just really, really sketchy. The whole thing is really, really sketchy of how this all went down. So let's talk about, can you guys see that? Okay, so this is my source on this is Wide Open Country. This is Micah on your right, and then on the left is, I think, her friend. The photos are courtesy of Fitz News and Facebook. Oh, this is her. I think this might be her sister. Let me see. Anne Francis is one of the sisters of the late Mica Miller that's come forward to interview prior to what happened to Micah. She also directly addressed the Robeson County Sheriff's Department. She said, quote, I think our family is so disappointed, and rightly so, in my opinion, with the Robeson County Sheriff's Office for not properly doing an investigation. It had all the signs that somebody would have if they did commit this almost too perfectly. The proper interviews weren't done. Was the Robeson County Sheriff's Office interested in just cleaning this all up because of those 5 reports that they didn't act on? I don't know. I'm not saying they did or they didn't, but this is how her family feels. The day after we saw all their evidence on why they thought that Micah did this to herself, they basically showed us snips and clips of things going on. It was just so quick. They just wanted it to be done with, and it was pretty obvious. The topic quickly changed to John Paul Miller. That's JP Miller, Micah's pastor husband. It's building that case, who his character really is, not who he pretends to be for 45 minutes on stage, just according to her sister. Since the day we found out, we knew it wasn't her because she was never mentally unstable before she met him. So her sister said Micah never had any mental health problems until she met John Paul. The only thing my family can come up with is that he's jealous, and John Paul used to being the center of attention. And she was getting ready to leave. So I agree. I can see why her family is really concerned about this, you guys. Can you guys hear me okay? I lost my connection for a second. Okay. Brady says, why would you go through all the trouble, register your car, pay your rent? Yeah, right? Pay your car payment, pay your taxes just to do that. I agree. And Jess says, there's a lot in this case that just doesn't make sense. I agree with you guys. I agree with you guys. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I just did really want to talk about what happened to Micah because I just think that this is a story that I think has, it just keeps coming up over and over and over. And I guess I just don't understand at what point are we going to say enough is enough as a society and that law enforcement needs to do better. Law enforcement needs to do better. And if you guys have gone through this, they will exploit, the emotional vulnerabilities in their victims. This is narcissistic people. So is this what happened to Micah? So I do have a Mica Miller Facebook group. It's called Justice for Micah. You should be able to type in my name, Jessica Della Davies, should appear. It should pop up with those two. It has a picture of Micah with the sunset and a heart after it. If you are interested in learning more about this case or being part of a really nice, caring community, I also have a Reporter Room Facebook group too, where we talk about a variety of different cases, including the Sebastian Rogers and this one. And we are going to do a members only live stream right after this. So please be on the lookout for that. So I'm going to end it there, but I do want to say thank you. Let me take this down. I do want to say thank you to our channel members. Hold on. I'm going to have to our producers, George Brown and Jazz, Angry Bonds, Not So Saintly, Debbie Joe, and Jane J. To our channel members, if you would like to have your name appear in all of my videos and live streams, just hit the join button. But if you just want to subscribe, that helps a lot too. So thank you to our mods and to our subscribers and to our channel members. You guys make this possible. A special thank you to our head mods, Njaz and Six Sense Amelia. And I just want to give super sticker, PayPal gratitude, thanks, and also channel membership. Thanks so much for doing that. I really appreciate you guys. You allow me to cover cases like this that aren't always able to get monetized because they're so yeah, this is a Six Sense Amelia, our head mod. Our other head mod is NJAZ. Now everybody with a wrench here is it. Crime on a Dime. Hey, good to see you. I'm late. I had a lot to say as a nurse in Georgia pertaining to all of Micah's reports. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Well, thank you too, Arlene. I really appreciate you guys so much. So if you would like me to continue following this case, I think this is going to continue to have breaking news. And I feel like with this rabbit hole, the more we dig into this, the more there is to find, like finding out about the former spouses. It has Lori Vallow Daybell, Chad Daybell vibes of the fact that both of these spouses are no longer with us. And whether Micah did this herself or whether she was pushed to her breaking point or whether this was a setup, I don't know. But it is a problem. Welcome, Crime on a Dime. Thank you so much for becoming a YouTube channel member. I really appreciate it. And Jody says this is very interested in and sad. And autism GMA times 3 says justice for Micah. Yeah, I think that's all anybody wants is justice for Micah. We all want that. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. And I will be following this case. If you guys are interested, I would like to continue to follow this case. I really feel a passion for this because I think that this is something that just in seeing what's happened to Gabby Petito and seeing I just think it's going to continue to happen until we start raising awareness for it. So I just think as a true crime community, this is something positive we could do, can come together on behalf of women, on behalf of men, and on behalf of little people who are living in these houses, going through all this. Like what possibly happened in the Sebastian Rogers case. I think we could maybe help protect somebody else from going through something like this. And I also want to support Micah and her loved ones. So I will see you guys on the next live stream or video. I will be putting out a video day after tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that.